I was a really big fan of the EX model series back when Bandai was still doing it. It launched sometime around 2001 or 2002 with, I think it was the Gundam trailer. Initially, it was just a series of smaller scale like vehicles for dioramas. Yeah, the original release, I'm pretty sure, was the Gundam trailer that RX-78 was lying on in the first episode when Amuro found it. And then they did like some support vehicles, Magellan attack tanks, DOP fighters, Lagoons, the Gun Perry, all in 144th scale, and all compatible with, you know, your high-grade Universal Century kits. So they were great for dioramas. They did a couple of larger scale ones. I think they did a 1/100th DOP. A couple other things I can't think of off the top of my head. But eventually, they kind of moved on and started doing different starships. And not just from the Universal Century era as well. They did a lot of stuff from Gundam Seed. They did the Archangel, which I built back in the day and was one of my favorite models that I never had to pay for because HobbyLink Japan sent it to me by accident and I got to keep it. Thank you, HobbyLink Japan. And as well as the Eternal and the... I can't remember the name of the ship that Shin and his crew, the Minerva, I think, from Seed Destiny. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And then there were a couple of, you know, 1/44th scale vehicle accessories. I think there was a Skygrasper and something else from Gundam Seed as well. It was released in the EX model series. But they kind of abandoned doing the vehicles in favor of the starships around like 2003, 2004. And that's kind of just where the line stuck around to. The first few were all like molded in single color or very, very simple color separation. The Archangel was pure white. I think it had... no, in fact, it was pure white. I was going to say I thought the thrusters and the display stand were molded in gray, but as memory serves, it was pure white. So that was an interesting challenge, masking off where the red parts of the legs and as well as like on the wings and whatnot. But I had a lot of fun with that, and I really missed that ship. I took it to a couple of model shows and won some minor awards for it. So yeah. But yeah, a little while after finishing off the Siege ships, they finally moved back into the Universal Century era, I believe starting with the white base, and then doing the Musai, as well as the Magellan and Salamis Fedi battle cruisers. I'm pretty sure these were the only ones, those four were the only ones that were ever done in the Universal Century era, of Universal Century era designs. But I'm excited to take a look at them because I love the Musai. It's silly. It's such an unusual and seemingly impractical design, but I don't know, I kind of dig it. As well, the Musai, or the Salamis and Magellan are just like your very bog standard kind of space battleship type ships. Like they look like naval, like Earth, ocean naval ships that have just been modified to fly in space. Like, you look at these and you put them next to, say, the space battleship Yamato, and they wouldn't look out of place with each other. Yeah, so we are going to take a look at both of these sets together, because why not? So, I dig the box arts on these. They're really quite striking. Like, whoever assembled these models, whoever, you know, did them for the photo shoots, did a really nice job. There's like some really neat weathering and shading and panel lining on the Musai. It looks really, really cool. As well, just the detail work on the Salamis and the Magellan is really nice. I generally just really like these. We're going to start with the Musai. This is number 20 in the EX model series. It was released in 2004. And I remember building one of these back in the day and really enjoying it. It's a really it's fun and fiddly, but it's a really neat model. It comes with 3 in-scale Zakus. This is 1/1700th scale. I've got some specs here: Musai class, classification light cruiser, total length, weight, fully equipped with weight when dry weight, fully equipped weight, main propulsion system, main armament, and optional vehicle. I've got some photos on the display stand. You can see there's the Musai shuttle, which can undock from the nose of the ship. You've got a couple of different options for the bridge. There's the kind of the dome helmet style, which I think was the type that Shaw used early in the series, and then the standard type that you would see for the rest of the series. The other side just has some additional photos, kind of calling out features and details. So this came as a surprise to me when I did this thing the first time. It comes with a small runner of Photo-Etch parts. Not really sure why. Like, it's optional. Like, all of these parts exist as plastic in the kit, but they just included them as Photo-Etch just because, I guess, why not? There's just some, I'm guessing these are like communications arrays on the side of the main forward hull of the ship, and then there's like some more arrays on like on the bridge. But the detailing on them is really nice. The photo etching always looks really crisp and really nice. There's not a lot to this thing. There's only 2 runners. This is the A runner, and it has the main structure of the model. You've got your display stand, you've got your main hull, the kind of spine of the ship, and then the forward section, and this all kind of fits together around this main structure. There's some venting. There's a couple of different options for vents. There's like these 3 little triple smaller vents, and then 2 larger vents that fit on the open side. Then you've got your engines, and then the rear. You've got an option for an open mobile suit launcher hatch or a closed hatch. It's a very small ship. This is actually a lot smaller than I remember it being. Yeah. The B runner has the Musai shuttle in 3 major components. There's the top half, bottom half, and then the rear section. There's a hatch additionally, I believe, that is articulated. Looks like it has pegs on either side, so it can fit inside this opening and flip open, but there won't really be anything visible inside. Looks like the so-called hangar is just a flat wall. Then you've got your 2 different bridge options. You've got the helmet dome bridge, and then the standard type here, I believe. Or no, this would. No, I think these here are for the dome type bridge altogether, and then this is for the standard type. There's an optional. Yeah, this is the part that has those communications antennas molded to it. This is the part that doesn't, so you would use the photo etch with this piece. And then these are the whatever the other array is on the forward section with the arrays, and then I think this would be the part that doesn't have it, so you would use the photo etch with this piece, these 2 pieces. Some additional detail parts here and there. Here are the turrets, which I want to build a model of one of these turrets attached to, a wrecked section of Musai with a real grade Zaku, because I really think that would make a neat diorama, and I have an idea how I'm going to do it. I may have mentioned it in a previous video, I'm not sure, but if I haven't, I will talk about it in the future. In addition, there's 3 in-scale Zaku figures. They all look like they're a little bit too big, like especially compared to the hatch in the back of the ship. Like, they don't look like they'd be able to fit through that, let alone 2 at a time. Because the hangars on those things have catapults in them. They're supposed to launch them through that back door. So they just look like they're too big. But you've got an S-type or a commander type with the commander's antenna, and then 2 standard ones. One of which actually has an extra ammo drum molded to the rear skirt, which that's a really nice touch. The other 2 do not.
They're all equipped with the standard 120mm Zaku rifle, but only one of them has the extra ammo drum. That's actually a really nice touch. I really appreciate that. Also, the fuel pods. These sit under the hangar, the 3 large spherical fuel pods, which they're quite small. They're about the size of a pea. And Runner C has our clear parts. This would be the clear window for the helmet type cockpit. Or bridge. This would be for the standard type bridge, and I believe this is just for a window in the main hull of the ship. I'm not quite sure where. Instructions, not much to them. Just printed in single color blue. It calls out your Photo-Etch, and then your 3 runners. Assembly is pretty basic. You've got your option for your different bridge types. It says you can use your Photo-Etch parts if you want. You do have to attach the bridge before you seal up the main hull, but I would imagine there is a way to kind of modify the parts so you could attach the bridge after, so you could actually swap them if you want to. You've got optional open doors for your hangars. There's just a kind of a barn door open just before the bridge, and then of course the catapult in the rear of the bridge, and then your engines, main forward hull assembly, Musai assembly, and then final assembly with various different options for like the venting and whatever else you want to use. The Musai itself does have landing gear if you want to display it that way, and then your Zakus, which you can do as you can do as 3 in green, or 1 in red and 2 in green, or whatever combination you want. I've got 2 of these, and I'm probably going to get a 3rd one. So I imagine I will do most of them in green and then 1 in red, just because why not? So that is the Musai. That is a very, very simple model. There's no markings. It comes all in one color aside from the clear. There's not much to it. So let's see if the Salamis and Magellan are any more complicated than that. Box art, very, very similar, very same style. You've got your specs for both ships. You've got some of the little in-scale figures, some detail shots in close-up of the ships. They both come with an escape capsule. I don't remember what either of them are called. They might be called out in the instructions, I'm not sure. But this is release number 23, which if it wasn't the last, was very close to the end of the line. This was released in 2005. Box side, again, just has kind of some detail photos of the completed models. Other side has some more detailed call-outs, as well as kind of shouting out. This was a cross-promotion for a limited run animated series called MS Igloo that aired, I think it was like 5 episodes or something. It was all CG animated in 2004 and 2005, I believe. So I guess we'll start with the Magellan. It looks a bit bigger. The detail is really nice. There's like some really nice panel lining. Kind of evokes like wood deck paneling on a World War II era battle cruiser. Like the whole design of this thing is very evocative of a World War II or earlier battleship. This is like purely structural stuff. So you've got like your bow and different major structural components of the ship. I don't know the Magellan all that well, so I can't really call out what part goes where, except that these would be the engines. These would be like some flank parts. This looks like those look like they're probably missile launcher tubes, and I would guess that this is where the escape shuttle would dock. That looks like kind of a cutout for an escape shuttle. But yeah. Yeah, one thing I've always liked about the EX model starships especially is, yeah, they really go heavy on the panel detail. Like, it's not as fine as, say, Tamiya or Hasegawa or some really high-end companies that really go hard on ships and whatnot, but they look really good. And, you know, with some washing and dry brushing, it would look really, really cool. But it's all snap fit. I forgot to mention that about the Musai. These are all snap fit. The B runner is mostly detail up parts. You got the bridge, which is quite large. This is the same scale as the Musai, and this bridge is about 3 times as big. Overall, the ship looks like it's probably about 50% longer than the Musai, and quite a bit bulkier, and much more heavily armed. But you've got your escape shuttle in 2 parts. You've got your display stand. Looks like thrusters for the escape shuttle. Some more, I guess these would be thruster inserts for the main engines. You've got all of your main cannons, and then many, 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 many point defense guns, which the sprue connections on them are quite chunky, and that's kind of a bummer. Yeah, these turrets are in multiple pieces, and they're quite a bit larger than the Musai's, which kind of goes in concert with how they were used. Like, the Federation in the original Gundam was going with the big ships, big guns kind of philosophy, while the Zeon was very heavily favoring mobile suits with very high mobility. So their cruisers were really just there to support the mobile suits. Whereas since the Federation early in the war did not have any mobile suits, they were reliant entirely on their big guns. They didn't see the mobile suits as being that much of a threat. So they just focused more on big cannons. And, in a straight fight, a slugging match between a Magellan or even a Salamis and a Musai, Musai doesn't stand a chance. But with mobile suits, clearing out the cannons and the fighter screen from a Magellan or a Salamis, oh Jesus, the Salamis are not. The Federation didn't stand a chance. A lot of really tiny attachable details. Looks like there's some landing gear for the shuttle. I'm not sure what this is. This is some kind of antenna for somewhere. It's very, very fine. There's a little bit of flash around the edge of it, but not a lot. And then you've got your 3 RGM-79 GIM mobile suits, which to paint those would be a chore. They're very, very, very small. Yeah. The D1 runner, I don't know if this is for just the Magellan or if this has parts shared with the Salamis as well, but this has all just clear windows. I would guess this would be the main window insert for the bridge, and then there's probably just smaller window inserts around the ship, which will be a pain to mask to paint this thing. But there they are. The Salamis is a lot smaller than the Magellan, both in terms of overall dimensions, but also just in terms of weaponry and what kind of equipment it can carry. The Magellan is like a World War II battleship in space. The Salamis is really more of a light cruiser. And even though it kind of looks like a salami, it was not named after a salami. It was named after, I believe, a battle in ancient Greece in a region called Salamis. I'd have to look it up. I really should have already, but I didn't because I'm terrible. Assembly looks just as straightforward as the Magellan and the Musai. This is the C1 runner, by the way. This looks like the main bow and bridge structure. You've got the different ball units. There's 3 of them. Each one is in 2 halves plus 2 arms and a cannon, and then there's a rack that can lock in on the bow should you choose to, so that the Salamis could carry them into battle, and then they could fly off and support the GIM suits as they went into battle. The GIMs themselves were usually sent out lashed to a Magellan cruiser as opposed to one of these, because these were smaller, they were older, they were less effective, and so they got saddled with just the shitty little balls. The C2 runner has some more of the structural stuff. I believe this is part of the shuttle. Yeah, the escape shuttle, which is quite a lot smaller than on the Magellan. Looks like it would have room for about maybe 3 people, whereas the one on the Magellan looks like it could probably hold half of the crew. You've got your 6 main single barrel beam cannons, and then your half dozen smaller point defense guns, twin guns, and then a pair of triple barreled point defense guns. The display stand, some additional detail parts. I believe this would be the engine housing, and then the bell itself is on the other runner. Yes, this one does actually have a clear runner of its own. This is runner D2, so we just have the various windows for the bridge and other points on the ship. Instructions, just like the Musai, printed in blue, very basic. Just a bit larger because it's for 2 ships. You've got your parts callouts, runner callouts. Assembly begins with the Salamis. Yeah, I don't really know how to describe where this begins. I guess it starts with the bow, and then you assemble the bridge section, and then the stern section, and they just kind of all fit together, and then you add on the various detail cannons. There is an optional cannon on the bow. If you want to use the ball rack, you have to detach one of the cannons to display with the balls. The small shuttle fits in the ventral area and just in a little docking port. And since you only have 3 balls, but the rack has room for 6, I guess they're trying to entice you to buy more of these, or suggest that maybe some of them have already gone off into battle. The Magellan starts with the bridge, and then the engine module, some detail parts on the side of the ship, and then you move on to the forward section, the shuttle, before kind of bringing the whole thing together, the whole structure, and then adding the detail plates on top of that, and then finally adding weapons, and then additional detail stuff all over the surface of the ship, and then adding your mobile suits. So, yeah, there's not really anything by way of paint callouts or anything. They're pretty much molded in color. I mean, the Salamis, I believe, has some red parts here and there, and the Magellan is mostly green. But there's, nice detailed photos on the box, so you can see what colors are supposed to be what. So that is the EX Salamis and Magellan.
So yeah, it's a damn tragedy that the EX model series ended when it did. They could have done so many more kits. I would have loved to have seen like a Rock-High Loom from Shaw's Counterattack, or any of the Neo-Zeon ships from that era. Neo-Zeon stuff from Zeta Gundam, or say the Zanzibar class from the original series. I'd love to see one of those. Hell, they never did a Gao transport. Those would have been really neat. I would have loved to have been able to recreate Garmazabi's last stand in Seattle. But it would have been nice if they could have done a few more ships. But, they did what they did. I guess the line wasn't as successful as they would have liked, and they just had to end it. But what can you do? Yeah, so I'm probably going to get building these just quickly, because they're pretty simple to assemble. And I might do a quick post-build review eventually. I really haven't decided yet. But we're going to call it there for that, and tomorrow we are going to take a look at the latest in the Real Grade series, RG-28, the Tallgeese, which I am super hyped for because I love the Tallgeese, and I really want it to look good with the new high-grade Leo, which I got 3 of them. I've already got one built. I really kind of dig this thing. Not going to do an unboxing because it's a very simple high-grade kit, but I've got 3 of them, and I can't wait to have a team of them led by Zex and his Tallgeese, because that's just going to look super cool. So yeah, stay tuned for that. That'll be coming up tomorrow, or thereabouts. Thank you everyone out there for watching, and happy modeling.